Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
And hello and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. Well, I guess the big news for everybody this week, of course, on the tip of their tongue is the whole Matt Harvey situation. That's not going to go away, folks. We're stuck with it no matter what. I guess we have to address it. Matt Harvey deserved to be suspended. Matt Harvey needs to get his head into the game. Matt Harvey needs to get his head back into baseball. And what's interesting is this is his second time, the second time he's apologized to his teammates. It's not going to happen again. Let's see what happens. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's got to start showing things. And he's got to start showing it tomorrow night when he goes to the mound in Milwaukee to face the Brewers. He has to turn his life around. It's very interesting that a lot of the things that was said, his comments, the comments by Terry Collins, I found interesting what almost seemed to be left out of the conversation. What was not said. Well, if you read between the lines, it almost sounds, I don't know for a fact, I don't know anything, but it almost sounds as if there's a deeper problem that they're concerned about and they want to nip it in the bud early, like right now, before he goes down a path that is not going to be returnable from. Maybe it's too much partying, too much booze. Maybe it's the high life, the page 6 stuff, the dating of the supermodels. He's got to meet like a nice librarian or something to calm him down. I don't know, but if you listen to their statements and you read the statements, and it almost sounds that there's something else there. What it is, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. It wouldn't be right. It just seems that way, that there seems to be some extra concern. Even Harvey himself in his statement, what he said about he knows there's some things he's been doing that he has to correct and things like that. That doesn't seem like just somebody that was out and, went to play golf and then missed his coming to the stadium that day, getting a migraine. There's something else there. And let's hope that they can correct it. And as far as Syndergaard, he needs to grow up a little bit too. He should have had that MRI, and I think hopefully he'll learn his lesson. This is kind of his second time too, if you think about it, because he had the incident where he didn't. In spring training a couple years ago, where they had to talk to him because he went into the clubhouse and was eating lunch and David Wright had a very stern talking to him at that point. So he needs to grow up a little bit too and not read his press clippings as much and doesn't think he's Thor. But Harvey, seems to be legitimate concern. And, this guy he's looking for this big payoff. But he's a mediocre pitcher. He's a .500 pitcher. 31-30. What has he done to earn this big contract that they kept talking about for years? Personally, I think he's getting a lot of bad advice. I think Scott Boras is really a cancer to him. I don't think he's good for Harvey. But he does get his guys big contracts, but at what extent? He also costs guys a lot of money on contracts as well. Check it out. Check the history. So I don't think Scott Boras is the correct guy, and I hope that Michael Conforto wakes up one day and fires Scott Boras as well, because at least he doesn't seem to be listening to him unless Boras isn't in his ear as much as he is in the ear of Matt Harvey. But we will see. This is his second chance. This will be his third chance now. 3 strikes, you're out. But we have to address the Matt Harvey situation. It's the only way, and the Mets did the right thing. They did the thing that they thought they had to do, and that was to suspend him. And he will be back. And he has to show that he is dedicated to sports and to baseball and to the Mets and to this team. And with all of the turmoil going on, the Mets are actually winning. 6-3 over their last 9. They just completed a 4-2 homestand. Should have been 5-1. But Terry Collins, you can't leave Wilmer Flores in the 9th inning in a 1-run game for defense. I mean, the guy can't make a throw. He bounced the ball to home plate, almost cost him a run earlier in the game. Yes, he can hit 3 for 5. He had 2 RBIs yesterday. Yes, I know. But he really cost them the game. Throwing away a double play ball, or potentially a double play ball. Threw it high to second. And I'm watching him defensively at third base, and he can catch the ball, but he can't throw. He's always bouncing the ball to first, throwing it wide. He takes too much time. He winds up with the ball. Catch the ball, throw the ball. See the ball, hit the ball. It's a complicated game. It's not that complicated, though. You can break it down and learn this game quickly, but wow, Wilmer Flores, I know he's a big fan favorite and everything, but the guy can't throw. I don't know what it is, I mean, did they tell him, you don't have to worry. You can hit, Wilmer, don't worry about anything else. He cannot throw a baseball. But somehow, through all the turmoil, through the Syndergaard, Harvey, losing Cespedes, this team's winning. And you know why they're winning? Because they're not hitting home runs as much. They're making contact. I've been on this soapbox for how many years now? Make contact. Something will happen. And they're doing that. They're moving the line. This guy singles. This guy singles. Gap ball, double, run scores. That's what they've been doing, and they've been winning. Playing a much better brand of baseball instead of sitting around waiting for somebody to hit the home run. They've been making things happen. Lagares had a beautiful bunt yesterday. Making things happen. This is what you have to do, folks. And I hope that they continue it. And to be honest, they're playing better ball without Cespedes. I don't know what that means. But, the fact of the matter is they are playing better ball without Yoenis Cespedes right now. It's just a fact. You can't you can't dispute that. You're playing better team ball as well. And enough already with the Jay Bruce stuff, okay, folks? Don't keep telling me he's hitting home runs. And the last 2 games he hits home runs and they lost. All right? Now he's getting some big hits, but Jay Bruce is doing the same thing. He's taking the ball the opposite way. not trying to hit everything out of the ballpark. The home runs will come. But give it a chance. Get the doubles, get the singles, get the triples. The home runs will come. Score those runs. Put the bat on the ball. That is the most important thing that you can do in a baseball game. And catch the ball. And fortunately, they've been catching the ball better. Better since they moved Reyes to shortstop. Conforto, what can you say? The guy's hitting the ball all over the park. All over the park. What's he hitting? 332. He didn't start yesterday. Put him in for pinch hitter. Bam. Base hit to right center. Not trying to do too much with anything. Everybody should take a lesson from that, because that's the way to do it. And we'll be back right after these messages.
Hey, baseball fans and book fans as well. This is Frank Nappi, author of the Legend of Mickey Tussler series, inviting all of you to learn more about my protagonist, Mickey Tussler, an incredible pitching prodigy who has autism. Follow Mickey's journey as he captures the hearts of fans everywhere with his blazing fastball and indomitable spirit. Please visit Amazon or www.franknappy.com for more information.
Hi, this is the world-famous Mr. Brewtown of BrewtownSports.podomatic.com. You know, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Brewtown Sports. You can also listen to the show at Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com, and iTunes.com. And we've got the new one. It's called BrewtownRadio.weebly.com, but the one that I'm most proud of being on is BaseballPodcast.net. It is the home of great baseball talk shows. Check it out, my show and all kinds of other programs all about Major League Baseball. So check it out. That's BaseballPodcast.net, the home for great baseball talk shows.
The Phillies and Mets rivalry has never been better. Hi, my name is Rich Baxter, and I host Phillies Talk Podcast. I hope you'll join me as we talk all about the Phillies all season long. That's Phillies Talk Podcast at fightinphillies.com. And now back to Gary Mack and this great edition of Mets Musings.
516-619-6341. That is the comment voicemail hotline if you'd like to be a part of the show. And drop us a line, leave us a comment or a voicemail, question, anything at all. Call that number, 516-619-6341. Or go to MetsMusings.com and click on that widget in the middle of the screen, and that's a speak pipe, and you can leave a voicemail right through your computer through your computer's microphone. Or if you prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, send us an email at metsmusings@gmail.com. The Facebook page is facebook.com/groups/MetsMusings, and the Twitter handle is at MetsMusings1. And if you'd like to help out the show, check out our Patreon page. Check out the campaign at patreon.com/MetsMusings. And joining me now is the one and only, the world-renowned, the third famous man in Milwaukee, the one and only Mr. Brewtown. Mr. Brewtown, welcome to Mets Musings.
The third most famous. I want to know who's number one and number two.
Well, I mean, it's got to be Yuka. It's got to be number one, and number two's got to be Eric Thames right now.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I mean, Todd Shaw is pretty popular. Ryan Braun, he's coming back. No, I'd go with that. Actually, number one would be Bob Uecker, and number two would be Giannis. the big basketball player.
Okay.
Oh, man, he's red hot here in Milwaukee. Everybody loves him. So.
Oh, okay.
And then it would be me and then Eric Thames.
Okay.
I'm not ready to put Eric Thames above me yet because Eric Thames is off to a great start. I mean, the guy's just – but a lot of those numbers came against the Cincinnati Reds.
But where?
So, I mean, he hit 8 home runs just off the Reds so far this season. So that's a big thing. And it's great. And he's gotten hot again this week. He's, Todd Shaw's been great. But he's still not at my level. I'm sorry.
Okay, then I do apologize.
The ever egotistical Mr. Brewtown.
So I am looking at this depth chart and roster of this team, and I'm scratching my head and saying, who the heck are these guys? I mean, there is nobody I remember from not even from a year or so ago.
Well, we all know Jonathan VR. He had a great year last year. He stole all the bases. He's a good guy. Ryan Braun's still with the team. A lot of people are kind of hoping that they trade him and get rid of all that money. Let's start moving some money. Eric Thames, if you don't know, is a guy who kind of went off to Korea and played a couple of years in Korea, and he was the biggest thing in Korea. Now, that really doesn't mean anything because no offense to Korean baseball, and I know that there's probably people that listen to your show and there's people that listen to my show that have an interest in Japanese and Korean baseball and Taiwanese baseball, but it's AA at best. So when the numbers came in and the Brewers were, hey, listen, we're going to give this guy $16 million. We're going to sign him for 3 years. Oh, by the way, he's been playing in Korea for the last 3 years, but he's been hitting 40, 45 home runs. He's the big thing. We were like, what are you doing? This is AA guy at best. But he got to play the Cincinnati Reds early on, and he put up huge numbers against the Cincinnati Reds. And I mean, he really is off to a great start. He is going to slow down, by the way. And you will see more of Jesus Aguilar, who's another big kid, great-looking first baseman of the future for the Milwaukee Brewers. But the Brewers are in a rebuild. And even we here in Milwaukee are scratching our head and goes, okay, who are the catchers? Bundy? I mean, come on. Who's this Bundy guy? We've never heard of this guy. I mean, who are these guys? So it's a learn for all of us here. And we're happy because the Brewers are playing far better than anybody had forecasted for the year. You got Pena as a catcher. Playing great. I mean, batting .313 here. I mean, that's pretty good. He's splitting time with Bandy. Bandy's also playing really good. Batting .281. He's got a couple of home runs. Hernan Perez. We had him last year. This guy can play every position. He can play third base. He can play shortstop. He can play second base. He'd throw him out in the outfield. He's also playing well off the bench. He's played in 28 games, batting .273. He's got a couple of home runs, got some RBIs. Todd Shaw, though, is the guy that I think, even more than Thames, has completely changed Milwaukee baseball. This is the guy that they got from the Red Sox. He struggled with the Red Sox. He did well against right-handed pitching, but not well against left-handed pitching. The Red Sox said, let's move him. Milwaukee went after. This guy's having a great year. He's 7 home runs, 26 RBIs, batting .273, playing a good third base. Looks like he's adjusted. He's hitting left-handers really well. We got Keenan Broxton. This is one of the guys that they made the trade for. He came in from another team. And he struggled to start the season off, but he's really come on as of late. This is a guy who's got 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, good speed, batting .266. We mentioned Jesus Aguilar. He's playing 31 games, not full-time, but he comes off the bench. He'll give a spot start. He's batting .250. He's got 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. Now, this is the guy everybody thought was going to have the Eric Thames start of the season because he had a huge exhibition season. He was hitting the ball at like a 400 batting average. It had like 5-6 home runs. This kid could be the future of the Milwaukee Brewers. And then you got a couple other guys. You got Orlando Arcia. That's their big prospect at shortstop. He's not doing well. He's batting .219. This is a kid that I think the future is down the road. But you're rebuilding, so throw him out there. Why not? If you think that he's got the possibilities of being a really good shortstop, which the Brewers do, you might as well play him. Then you got VR, who's just not performing as he did last year. He's batting .199. But that batting average will go up. Just in the last week, the Brewers have been red hot offensively. And that's the big thing is we had figured the offense wasn't going to be as good as it is. They're putting up some numbers. Broxton in the last 7 games batting .500. Aguilar's batting .429, a couple of home runs. Franklin, a guy that they picked up at the beginning of the season on that free agent wire, he's batting .400. Santana, hopefully Domingo Santana can get whatever he's got going on in his head and right that, because he hasn't been performing since coming up last year. But he's batting .389 in the last 7 games, so hopefully he's changing things around. Thames is batting .360. He's got a couple of home runs. Ryan Braun, who had a short stint on the DL, he's always got those lingering injury problems. He's played in 2 games. He's got the bat. So Shaw's batting .318 here this week. So the Brewers are once again just exploding. The problem is pitching. That's where the problem lies with the Milwaukee Brewers. We're not the New York Mets, so we don't have all the pitching in the world. And as the season goes along, that's what's going to really hurt us here in Milwaukee.
Well, as we've learned with the Mets, they don't have all the pitching in the world either, as it turns out. But at least we still have some good starters. You're right about the pitching, but surprisingly, this team is at 18-16, over 500. Been playing good ball. They're in the hunt, so to speak. Will they be able to continue, or do you think the pitching can hold up at all?
Well, we wanted to. I mean, I pretty much forecasted that the New York Mets were going to win that division. Now they're 16-17. I mean, they're only, what are they, 5.5 games back. Washington is not going to continue to play the way that they're playing right now. They're going to go through a period where they're going to be losing baseball games. There's going to be some on-field problems or even locker room problems, because there always are. You're talking about some really big egos for the Nationals. I mean, Harper himself has probably got the biggest head in baseball, and he's going to cause little problems. He's going to pull the prima donna stuff. You just know it's going to happen. The Mets are kind of going through that with Matt Harvey right now. I mean, supposedly we see him tomorrow. I think he's on the mound. And hopefully he gets out on the mound, and whatever problems he's having show up tomorrow night. We just clobber the guy. That would be great for us. But I think the Mets are still in the hunt. I really do. I think the Mets got so much talent. And if they don't make the playoffs, you got to get rid of Terry Collins. I said it at the beginning of the year. If Terry Collins and this team, healthy, do not make the playoffs, you got to fire Terry Collins, because he wasted a lot of talent on that team. Now, injuries are always going to be a problem with every team, but if the Mets can stay healthy or get healthy and work it out, I think they give the Nationals a run.
Well, Terry Collins is in his final year of his contract, and he said he will be the one that makes the decision at the end of the year. He is getting up there in age, and I think he had a close friend pass away last year, so that kind of gave him a new perspective on life. So who knows what's going to happen. But you mentioned Ryan Braun, and Braun is day-to-day right now, so there is a chance we may not see him in this series, or...
Well, he's played the last 2 games, and I haven't seen the lineup. They're playing the Red Sox right now as we're talking, so I don't know if he's in the lineup for today. But, Ryan Braun is always day-to-day because he's got all those lingering injuries. That's why we had the whole experience a couple of years ago with Ryan Braun and the gummy bear steroid whatever thing going on. Had something to do with naked models and hamsters and gummy bears. We don't really know what happened, but that's always going to be a problem with Ryan Braun. Is he's got those lingering injury problems, and that's one of the reasons why teams that become interested in Ryan Braun don't end up making that move, and they don't want to eat all that money. The Brewers still owe Ryan Braun a lot of money, and that's going to hurt them over the next couple of years.
Yeah, he's got an enormous contract, and I don't know too many teams that want to take him on. Other than, he may be a good fit, though, for an American League team where he could DL and a DH and not be DL'd as much, perhaps, if that were to happen.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, and I really wish that this would happen. I thought it was going to happen, but it never did. Is Ryan Braun is the guy who needs to come in and sit down with the Milwaukee Brewers and say, "Hey, listen, we're going to renegotiate this contract, and we're going to make it so I can be traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers," because that seems to be the team that all the rumors are. The Dodgers are interested, and Ryan Braun is from California. So he has an interest in being a Californian again, living in L.A., hanging out with movie stars, whatever he's got going on. We don't really know. But it's always that money issue. And he's going to have to renegotiate and tell the Brewers, listen, let's just erase that contract. That was a contract that was done a couple of years ago. It made sense at that time. It locked me in. We thought we were going to go to the World Series a couple of more times. It didn't happen. So let's renegotiate so teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians could make the trade and say, hey, listen, we'd love to have another big bat in that lineup. We'd love to go up against the Cubs again in the World Series and this time win. We would love to do that. But nobody's going to touch them with that contract. And the Brewers won't make the trade because they have to eat that contract. And that's going to hurt you even worse. So the Brewers are pretty much right now stuck with Ryan Braun. I mean, that could change. Surprisingly, the Milwaukee Brewers don't call me every day and say, hey, what do you think we should do about this? I wish they would, because I really think that I could solve a lot of the problems. No, I would make it so much worse.
I don't know. I think you could solve some of the problems. So Eric Thames now just read a big article about him, and interesting how he's really left the U.S. And the major leagues as a slugger and came back as more of a hitter, but a slugger still. Interesting case study where he finally got his head, and I wonder when a lot of these other players across baseball are going to get their head right and become hitters instead of sluggers. But I know you said he did it against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's been in the hunt as well. They're playing pretty good ball. So did he hit a lot of home runs in Cincinnati, or was it spread out? Or
Well, it was spread out. I mean, the Brewers, I got to get my schedule, but the Brewers have already played the Cincinnati Reds, I think, 6-8 times, something like that. And the Brewers have been able to play Cincinnati really well. And Eric Thames really led that whole attack. So early on, I mean, when Eric Thames started off April and he had 12 home runs, 8 of those home runs came against the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, he's still killing the ball and he's still playing big time baseball, but it really did come down to a lot of those numbers came against the Cincinnati Reds. But he's been hitting everybody. It's just unbelievable what he's been able to do. And like you said, he did go from being a guy who swung for the fences to a guy who now became patient and he waited for his pitch. And, the balls have been flying out of the ballparks early in the season here, especially here in Milwaukee. The ball always flies out of the ballpark. I think Miller Park and some of the Midwestern parks are really made for a guy like Eric Thames. But he's got to keep the numbers up because Jesus Aguilar, this kid is pretty good. And I think by July and August, you might see Aguilar playing most of the time at first base because Eric Thames can also do some outfield for you. So, you've got some options with the two of them. And that's what the Brewers are doing. I mean, they're sharing time with the catcher. They're trying to get every bat in the lineup because every bat seems to be doing well.
And of all their prospects, who seems to be, or do they have guys that you really think are going to stick? And are they on the right path?
I think they are. I think Jonathan Villar, he started off last year as a shortstop. He had a great season, right? He was stealing bases. He was getting hits. He was hitting home runs. This guy was hitting power. He could hit 20, 25 home runs. This kid's a real deal. There's something not right. They moved him over to second base to make room for Orlando Arcia, who's great defensively. He needs to get a bat. Santana, the Brewers are big on this Santana kid. I'm not. I haven't seen anything yet that says, hey, kid's going to be a superstar. The Brewers are big on him. He's starting to hit. He's starting to finally find his way. There's a handful of guys. Keenan Broxton, I think this guy's going to be something special for the Milwaukee Brewers. He plays a great center field. He's got great base running skills, not just stealing bases, but running bases. He seems smart. He's got a good bat. I think he's in the right spot now with guys around him that he can work off of. And I'm talking Todd Shaw, Eric Thames, Ryan Braun. It all comes down to pitching, and that's where we're so weak. Some of our guys, Chase Anderson's off to a great start. Matt Garza, surprisingly, has pitched well in 3 games. We'll see him tomorrow night. We'll see if he can do it. But you know that Matt Garza is going to fall apart because he always falls apart. That's all part of his career here in Milwaukee is pitch a couple of good games and then you see nothing for the next 15 games. So.
Well, we're going to see Garza against Harvey, which should be an interesting matchup. The two Matts that a couple of years ago might have been, touted as a big pitching duel. Now we're not so sure because we don't know how either one is going to pitch. And then on Saturday, we're going to see Gieselman or Gieselman, however they're saying it this week, versus Davies. What can you tell us a little bit about Davies?
Zach Davies is a guy who the Brewers are really high on, but not so much anymore. This is a guy. He's a below average pitcher. He's going to win anywhere from 10 to 12 games, maybe 13, 14 games, but he's going to lose 14 or 15 games. He's like a Matt Garza. He can be just locked in and ready to go, and he'll give you 7 innings. And then the next outing, he barely can get through 4 innings. He wastes a lot of pitching. Which is typical for the Milwaukee Brewers. That's something that really bothers me about the Milwaukee Brewers is their pitching staff. They waste a lot of pitches. Zach Davies is okay. I mean, his numbers so far this year, he's 3-2 and a 5.60 ERA. He's going to give up a lot of runs. He's got the big offense this year behind him. So he's going to win some games, but he's going to lose you a lot of games. And his ERA is always going to be right up there at 4, 4.5, 5. I don't think that long term he's going to have a long career here in Milwaukee. He was one of those guys that they kind of touted 2-3 years ago as the future, but it turned out not quite to be the future. Willie Peralta will pitch the game on Sunday. He's another guy, too, that he had the big year a couple of years ago, and everybody got so excited about Willie Peralta, but what has he done lately? He's a below average pitcher, but that's what the Brewers have right now. They claim they got some guys down in the minor leagues, but they're not ready to come up. They don't have anybody in AAA or AA that's ready to come up and start winning baseball games. They got a lot of guys that are down in the rookie league. They got a lot of guys that are down in single A, lower and upper single A baseball. So it's going to be 2-3 years before we actually find out with all the drafts and all the trades that the Brewers have made for top prospects, if any of these guys can really pitch in the major leagues.
And of course, the bullpen is always the big question. How has the bullpen performed so far this season?
The bullpen is better than what I thought it was going to be. I really thought the bullpen was just going to self-destruct. But you take a look. Corey Knebel has pitched in 18 games, got an ERA of 1.08. You got this Drake kid who's only pitched in 12 games, but he's got a 2.19. Hughes is 2.77. Barnes, who looks really good. I mean, this is a kid that the Brewers love to throw out there, 3.12. You've got guys that are pitching well, but then on the other part, you got guys that are, ERA of 5.79 and 5.30 and 5.17. Felice, who was supposed to be their big save guy, he's got 8 saves, but he's got an ERA of 5.17. He reminds me of K-Rod. Comes out and just when K-Rod was on, man, it was just exciting to watch. And then it was like something would happen and he would just fall completely apart. A bird would fly by and all of a sudden he's given up, 2-3 home runs in a row. It's the same thing, but it's like everything. It's more mental than it is physical. And, so that's something that only he can figure out, and hopefully he figures it out real soon. But otherwise, the bullpen has been better than I think what all of us had expected.
And can you give us a little scouting report on Tommy Malone?
He's another guy too. I was surprised that the Mets picked him up. This is a guy that he's like all the other Brewer pitchers. When he's on, he throws a lot of junk. He tries to confuse people. He at time will attack the plate, and then other times he's trying to paint the corners. And he just seems to have this thing where everything all the wheels fall off at once. So, be prepared for, he kind of reminds me of a Chris Capuano. Remember when he pitched for the Brewers, he won a lot of games, but he would also just fall apart. And he'd start the season off, he'd be 7-2, and everybody, oh man, Chris Capuano, look at this guy. And then the rest of the season, he went 12-18. Just everything would go wrong. So depending on how they use Malone, I think he's a good 5th or 6th starter on most teams.
Well, he pitched pretty well yesterday. 5 innings. I think it was 2 runs. Did not figure in a decision. They tied it up. The Giants did when the bullpen self-destructed last night. Yesterday afternoon. Jeurys Familia conjured up the ghost of Armando Benitez and copied it perfectly. As he did in the World Series of 2015, but that's another story. And Wilmer Flores was playing third base, can hit like the Dickens, but the guy can't throw a baseball. I never saw a major league player that bounced so many balls to home plate or to first base in my life. And he threw a ball high, and they blew a potential double play that would have ended the game, and just they ended up losing the game. But Malone looked pretty good, and look, we all know he's here as a stopgap.
Yep,
it's just somebody to fill the shoes until they can get either Mats ready and back, or Lugo gets healthy, or I think it'll be a while for Syndergaard to come back. But that's really why he's here. They tried Rafael Montero. They were not happy with his performance. He might fit well on the Brewers team because he pitches some good innings and then falls apart. So maybe he'd be good. But, this has always been a problem with the Brewers. Has always been a problem with the pitching. It's an interesting thing when you look at it, because the Mets always had a problem with getting position players and hitters that would stick. And if you think of the great position players the Mets actually drafted, it's pretty thin. Once you go through Strawberry and Cleon Jones, there isn't a lot more there. Well, now Michael Conforto is awesome. But after that is not a lot of great positional players there. And yet the pitchers have been very good. They've been a very good pitching organization. The Brewers seem to be just the opposite. Why do you think that is?
That's always been that way, even with the Milwaukee Braves. The Milwaukee Braves were an unbelievable baseball team. If you know the history, they came into Milwaukee in 1953. They left for political purposes. In 1965, and on one of your shows, I'll actually go into my theory on why the Milwaukee Braves ended up going to Atlanta. This is a team that had a winning record all 13 years. They were always within at least 8 games of going to the World Series. And you're talking, this was a powerful team. They had good pitching. They had Warren Spahn, who's won more games than anybody else since 1900. They had Lou Burdett, but then they had a lot of guys that, were okay. This was a team that won because of offense. The Milwaukee Brewers were the same way. The Brewers early on had produced some pitching. Jerry Augustine, Larry Sorensen, Moose Hawes. But it wasn't like Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, Nolan Ryan, the whole thing. But the Brewers and Milwaukee have always been offense. Balls fly out of County Stadium. Old County Stadium, Hank Aaron once said it was the greatest stadium to hit in because balls just flew out of there. Miller Park the same way. It's a big offensive. People love big offense. They love the big home run hitters. We don't produce our own pitching. Over the last 20 years, I mean, Ben Sheets. That's pretty much it. We've been able to bring other great pitchers in, Don Sutton, Rowley Fingers, Pete Vukovich, Zach Greinke, CC Sabathia. You know, we've been able to go out and get decent pitching staffs, but we've, traded away big offense. And that's just the way it is. Look at the Dodgers. Since they ended up in Los Angeles, that's a place that is perfect for pitching. Mm-hmm. And you take a look at all the great. Sandy Koufax really didn't take off till he got out to L.A.
Right. Yeah.
And once they opened up Dodger Stadium, it was like, hey, guess what? This place is built for pitching. So the Mets, the Yankees are more known for their big offensive players than they are for their pitching. They've had great pitching, but it's more offense. I think it's just the area. Colorado. I mean, Colorado's never had a homegrown great pitcher. They've had good pitchers that have ended up there, but not homegrown. So it is weird how that works. And I wish the Brewers would figure out a way to start developing pitching. I know the new general manager talks about it all the time, that, hey, every trade we make, I want at least one pitching prospect. But that's down the road. I'd like to see one now. It would be nice.
Well, you spoke about the general manager now, the Wonder Kid. He's one of the youngest guys, if not the youngest general manager in baseball. What kind of job is he doing overall?
I think he's doing a good job. This is a guy who came in, like you said, he was the youngest general manager ever hired. I think that's what it was. But this is a guy who also had been working in baseball since he was 20 years old. He had worked for Major League Baseball. He had come up through the ranks. He had helped put together the Houston Astros. He's as responsible for what the Astros are doing today as anybody else. He was the assistant general manager. He was in charge of player development, which is huge. A lot of baseball fans don't understand that a lot of times the success of your team depends on the guy that is the head of the baseball development. This is the guy who decides that's the guy we're going to bring up. That other guy's putting up numbers down to minor leagues, but he's not going to be that good. We're going to ship him off. And Stearns did a great job with Houston. So far, he's been able to trade away the Jonathan LaCroix, the Carlos Gomez, guys that he looked at and said, okay, we're going to build, and we need to rebuild this team. And the only way we can do it is start rebuilding the minor league system. Because the Brewers' history is pretty much, we've always had pretty crappy minor league systems. And so he started to trade guys, and he made the demand is, I want your top prospects. No more is I'm not going to trade Carlos Gomez or Jonathan LaCroix for a 35-year-old part-time outfielder that we're kind of hoping will hit 25 home runs, but he's willing to come here. So they're now trading for prospects. And so on that aspect, I think the guy's done a great job. My biggest concern is this guy's young. The Brewers are now playing better than most people thought they were. We'll see if that continues. But what happens if next year they take off? And everybody gets excited about the Milwaukee Brewers, and they're making a run. They're right up there with the Cubs. They're right up there with the Cardinals. And all of a sudden, Stearns is the now guy that all these teams that have big-time money say, that's what we want to do. We want that guy. So go and take Stearns out of Milwaukee. We'll pay off his contract, and we'll give him $20 million a year to do what he did in Houston and what he did in Milwaukee. Milwaukee doesn't have that kind of money. We can't compete. And that's why we always end up with managers that aren't the top flight managers. We can't go after a Joe Madden like the Chicago Cubs did. We wouldn't even been able to go after a Terry Collins because Terry Collins wouldn't have taken that small of a contract. So we end up with the Craig Counsels. We end up with the Ron Reinekes and all the other guys. And they're all qualified. They all know baseball. It's just they're the cheapest guy that we can afford. And it's the same way with the general managers. is David Stearns is probably one of the bottom 5 paid general managers in baseball. But he's doing a great job. He's not long-term, unless he loves it here. Unless he just says, you know what, Milwaukee, as Mr. Brewtown says, is the greatest city in the world. And I want to stay here. I want my future kids. I don't know if he has kids. I don't know. Is he married to a model or something? I don't know. I don't know anything about the guy. I don't care. All I care is he's doing a great job. He may just say, you know what, I'm going to stay in Milwaukee. You pay me $10 million, and I'll buy a house over there on the East Hill, on the east side, on the Lake Michigan, and I'll live a lifestyle that, hey, guess what? I can't live anywhere else because $10 million is a lot of money here in Milwaukee. You buy a lot of real estate. You could buy a lot of big boats to go out on Lake Michigan, but you know he's not going to do it. If the California, Los Angeles, Anaheim Angels come knocking on the door and say, we've got $25 million. You come out and you build a team over the next 3 years around Mike Trout, and you do it the way that you helped do it in Houston and you did it in Milwaukee. He's out of here. And we don't know if the next person that they give the job to would be able to do the same thing or have that same vision. They may go back to the old way of doing it. And that's my biggest concern, is that Craig Counsell, who was the assistant general manager and being groomed to take over as the general manager when all this happened, they then made him, when they screwed Ron Reineke, they made Craig Counsell the coach. What's not to say that if we lose Stearns, they move Counsell up to general manager. And how do we know he's not going to go back to the old way of trading for Dave Parkers and you know, guys, well, you know, he's willing to play here, so let's just go ahead and make the trade. I don't want to see that again. That would pain me.
I would have never guessed that. And speaking of pain,
yes,
there are a lot of injuries throughout baseball. We know here in New York quite well, but the Brewers seem to not be as afflicted with injuries, and I'm talking more the disabled list type, than a lot of other teams. What are they doing differently, or have they just been lucky so far?
They have been lucky, but you just jinxed it. So when the people here in Milwaukee start screaming about all the injuries, I'll say, well, that was that Gary Mack of MetsMusings.
There you go.
No, we've been very lucky. And really the only big name guy that's on the disabled list is their opening day pitcher, Junior Guerrero, who actually injured himself running the bases. So, you know, and we have been very, I mean, Ryan Braun is always day to day. You know, and we are going to have injuries, but no, we've been very lucky. And that's a big reason why we're off to a good start, is because we've got healthy guys. And that's so important in baseball. Like you said, the Mets are just injured, just beyond control. Look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're healthy. Now, the last couple of years, they haven't been healthy. They've had some of the key players have been, A.J. Pollock was out. That cost them 20 games easily, because of how good he is out in the outfield. They're healthy, and, man, they're playing great baseball. Mm-hmm. You know, the Brewers are going to have some injuries, and hopefully it's not to Todd Shaw, it's not to Eric Thames. Who I think Eric Thames is one of the team leaders. I think he stepped forward and said, hey, listen, guys, let's just have fun and play baseball. And that's what a team leader does. You know, a Derek Jeter and whoever, Keith Hernandez, you know, guys like that who just say, hey, listen, let's just play baseball. We all know how to play baseball. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And let's just have fun, and we'll just do all the little things that we need to do to win baseball games. And I think that's something that Eric Thames is doing. But, yeah, we've been very, very lucky. And hopefully you didn't jinx us.
Well, as always, it's always a good time and a pleasure having you on the show. And thanks so much. So go ahead and plug whatever you need to plug.
Well, it's called The Big Show. It's called Brewtown Sports. We're on Twitter at Brewtown Sports. We're at Facebook at Mr. Brewtown. And also, I've started a new Facebook page for the show. It's called The Big Show on Facebook. So either or, Mr. Brewtown, The Big Show, whatever. I've got the Facebook group, True Blue Brew Crew. That is open to anybody, but you still got to kind of root for the Brewers. So if you're a Cubs fan or a Cardinals fan and you come on there and go, you guys have never won a World Series, you're out of there. I'll bounce you so quick. I'm on a couple of networks. I'm on baseballtalkradio.com, which everybody's on now. Go to that site, man. If you have not been on that site, go to baseballtalkradio.com. Gary's program's on there. My program's on there. And everything. I mean, they got a program on there about women in baseball. I love it. It's fantastic. We're on Spreaker, Podomatic, Player FM, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes.com. We're also on the 405media.com, which is super live talk and righteous podcast. I don't know what time I'm on. It's sometime at night, but if you get up on that website, they have a little schedule thing, and it'll say Brewtown Sports. Then you'll know what time it's on. I'm never up past 9 o'clock. Never. I go to bed early. I'm old. You can email the show at mrbrewtown78@gmail.com. And if you do email the show, I will read it on the show. I will read your email on the show, and I will do it in a funny voice if you want me to. That's my promise to you. So
that sounds like a Fiverr ad almost. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, I hope so.
All right, and we'll all be back right after these messages. 516-619-6341. That is the comment voicemail hotline if you'd like to be a part of the show, and drop us a line, leave us a comment or a voicemail, question, anything at all. Call that number, 516-619-6341, or go to MetsMusings.com and click on that widget in the middle of the screen, and that's a speak pipe, and you can leave a voicemail right through your computer through your computer's microphone. Or if you prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, send us an email at metsmusings@gmail.com. The Facebook page is facebook.com/groups/MetsMusings, and the Twitter handle is at MetsMusings1. And if you'd like to help out the show, check out our Patreon page. Check out the campaign at patreon.com/MetsMusings. And let's take a look at the minor leagues, as the Las Vegas 51s were off last night, but they had a good night on Tuesday, as everyone in the starting lineup, minus Phillip Evans, recorded at least one hit, including starting pitching Sean Gilmartin. Dominic Smith had his second 4-hit game of the season with run-scoring doubles in the first and second. Ahmed Rosario continues his hot inning with 2 hits and 3 RBIs, and now has 16 multi-hit games on the season. The rehabbing Brandon Nimmo led off and played center, doubling his first at-bat, coming around to score on Smith's double in the first. Gilmartin made his second start in over a month for the 51s, as he was optioned back to Las Vegas on May the 3rd. He worked in and out of trouble all afternoon, as he allowed 3 runs, 2 earned, on 8 hits through 4.2 innings. Right-handed Kevin McGowan relieved Gilmartin with 2 outs in the 5th and earned the win with 2.1 innings of 2-run ball on 36 pitches. Righty Ben Rowan relieved McGowan in the 8th, gave up 2 earned runs, the first time he's given up more than an earned run since April 23rd. A big win for the 51s, as they remain mired in the last position of their division in the Pacific Coast League. The Rumble Ponies, coming out of Binghamton, blew a 5-3 lead heading into the bottom of the 8th, allowing 4 singles to score and 3 runs, and give the Portland Sea Dogs, the eventual 6-5 victory. The Sea Dogs grabbed the early 2-0 lead before right fielder Kevin Kazmarski of the Rumble Ponies had an RBI ground out to cut the lead to 1. Left fielder Kevin Taylor tied the game up at 2 for the Rumble Ponies in the 4th with his second home run of the season. A solo shot, Luis Guillermo added 2 singles for his 8th multi-hit game of the year. The Rumble Ponies stand at 17-11 on the young season. The St. Lucie Mets, Lucas Duda got a couple of hits, as he played in a rehab start there and was a collective offensive output for the St. Lucie Mets as they put together 15 hits, and all but right fielder Jeff Deal collected at least one hit. Patrick Mazika, the hot-hitting catcher, continued to rake at the plate, collecting 3 more hits, including his 11th double and his 27th RBI, and he's tied for first in the Florida State League with Alex Jackson. Mazika is also carrying a 13-game hitting streak dating back to April 26th. Vilmer Becerra drove in 2 with 3 singles on the day as St. Lucie at 14-19 defeated Lakeland 9-1. Andrew Church tossed one of his best games of the season in that victory. The only mistake Church made was serving up a solo home run to Sea Dogs third baseman Zach Shepard in the second inning. Otherwise, he was in command for the rest of the game. And with the victory, St. Lucie won the first series since April 28th, 30th against Clearwater. Columbia had the night off, and I don't know what it is about St. Lucie, but suffice it to say that catchers there lately have been quite a bit doing better in the hitting range, as last year Tomas Nido won the batting title there, and now Patrick Mazika is off to a great start, another catcher hitting in the Florida State League. So that's the minor league report for this week. Well, that does it for this edition of the podcast. This edition is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. If you would like to help in keeping this podcast going, I urge you to check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MetsMusings. So thanks for listening to this episode, and until next time, keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go Mets.